This page is the front cover, proudly displaying the DC UK logo and the Christmas 2000 issue number. Front and center is Lara Croft, as the magazine features a world-exclusive review of Tomb Raider Chronicles. They've packed in plenty of reviews for some absolute corkers, including Shenmue, Le Mans 24-hour, Ready 2 Rumble 2, featuring a promised bout against Michael Jackson, good luck with that, and Quake 2 Arena. Previews cover the highly anticipated Phantasy Star Online, plus upcoming races and sports titles like 18-wheeler and Sega Marine Fishing. The cover also promises over 35 pages of reviews and features on the best Christmas games and how to absolutely batter your mates in Power Stone 2 and Dead or Alive 2. Looks like a proper bumper issue for the holidays. This page is a rather disturbing advert for Worms World Party, using a surreal image of medical staff extracting an enormous, grotesque worm from a patient. It boldly claims that this year, everyone will suffer from worm infestation, tying it into the game's truly global problem and its tougher, meaner worms and online play. This page serves as the magazine's table of contents and welcome message, showcasing some of the big hitters this issue. You get a good look at Ryo Hazuki from the highly anticipated Shenmue, alongside glimpses of Phantasy Star Online, Tomb Raider Chronicles, Quake 2 Arena, Power Stone 2, and Dead or Alive 2. There are also shots of trucking action from 18-wheeler and some relaxing marine fishing. The welcome delves into the cultural impact of Lara Croft and the unique experience offered by Shenmue. And keep an eye out for Tinkerbeast, the rather festive fellow presenting the 12 games of Christmas, looking quite dapper in his royal and angelic ensemble. This page dives deep into the highly anticipated Phantasy Star Online, declaring it the arrival of the multiplayer RPG on console. Sonic Team's latest promises an epic online adventure for up to 4 players, launching in January. The article details the different character classes, the Hunters, Rangers and Forces, each with their own combat specialities, and gives us a glimpse into the various hostile environments and the promise of over 50 quests, including those in randomly generated dungeons. One particularly exciting feature highlighted is the game's unique language translation system, designed to break down global communication barriers. The page also includes a quick history lesson on online RPGs, touching on early pioneers like MUDs, Ultima Online, and EverQuest. Alongside this main preview, the index on the left gives us a heads-up on other games covered this issue, including 18-wheeler, Sega Marine Fishing, and MTV Skateboarding. It's safe to say everyone is buzzing about so. This page continues the Phantasy Star theme with a look back at the series' roots in Fantastic Legends. It charts the history from the original Phantasy Star on the Master System, following Alice on her quest, through to Phantasy Star 2 with Rolf on Motor, the branching narrative of Phantasy Star 2i, and the epic conclusion of Phantasy Star IV starring Chaz Ashley. It even touches upon the more obscure handheld titles, Phantasy Star Adventure and Gaiden, released on the Game Gear. This serves as a nice lead-in to the big Phantasy Star Online preview. The article then shifts focus, diving into the online capabilities of Dreamcast, discussing how Sega plans to accommodate a huge number of players worldwide and address potential latency issues for Sexo, even mentioning offline play options with NPC teammates. Meanwhile, over on the right, we get a glimpse of Star Wars, Episode 1, Jedi Power Battles, showcasing screenshots of lightsaber duels and teasing the chance to clear your mind, focus your thoughts, and reach for your lightsaber. Looks like there's more than one epic adventure on the horizon. This page dives into the world of heavy-duty trucks with a preview of 18-wheeler, American Pro Trucker. Sega's managed to turn the mundane job of trucking into a frantic arcade race across the USA, a far cry from boring 16-hour drives. You're tasked with hauling various loads, from containers to fuel tankers, across iconic locations like Las Vegas, Key West and Dallas, all while avoiding a rather persistent rival truck called Lizardtail. The article highlights the fast-paced nature, where plowing into traffic slows you down, forcing you to rely on skill and speed. It also mentions a challenging parking challenge mode, which sounds like a right faff. Screenshots show the different environments and cargo, plus the inevitable crashes and close calls. The reviewer notes that while the game is brilliant fun, the trucks apparently handle like waterbeds, which sounds like an absolute riot. There's also a mention of multiplayer and score attack modes. This page casts off with a preview of Sega Marine Fishing, the sequel to Sega Bass Fishing, taking the action to the open ocean. You'll be angling for far larger, fiercer creatures than just bass, including marlin, sailfish, tuna, barracuda, Napoleon fish, and even Mako sharks, as seen in the screenshots. The game offers various modes to sink your teeth into, such as Original, a training mode featuring different minigames like lure control and balloon popping, Arcade where you progress through locations, and a Season mode where you can actually put your caught fish into an aquarium. The reviewer notes the step up in challenge, with the marine fish requiring different tactics, and there's a mention of the elusive Japan-only fishing rod. While it's considered a good follow-up, the tension system might be a bit more erratic than its predecessor. As the quote reminds us, don't expect to land a great white though. This page rolls up with a preview of MTV Sports, skateboarding, looking to challenge the king of the halfpipe, Tony Hawk. Headlined by pro skater and Tendy McDonald, and backed by a massive crew of 30, it promises a familiar control scheme for pulling off grinds, flips and grabs. The preview mentions varied game modes, including a career-style MTV hunt, where collecting logos unlocks the game's impressive 35 parks, ranging from schoolyards to purpose-built facilities. Visuals are described as pleasing, and the soundtrack features big names like Cypress Hill, adding to the vibe. There's a neat challenge involving collecting board sections for new decks, but bailing means losing precious collected logos, adding a bit of nail-biting pressure. The 4-player mode sounds like a winner too. While it might not quite match Hawk visually, the review suggests it's got the goods to give Mr. Hawk a run for his money. There's also a rather dramatic shot of a car mid-air, teasing something called Stunt GP, which looks like it's going to be a bit mental. This page jumps into a set of game previews, starting with Stupid Invaders, a point-and-click adventure looking like a bizarre interactive cartoon full of toilet humor and wacky aliens, aiming for a comedy feel akin to Monkey Island. Below that is Speed Devils Online, taking the arcade racer online with career progression, betting, and classic tracks alongside new ones like Montreal and New York. It's seen as a solid online offering, even if the graphics are showing their age slightly. On the right, we have Record of Lodos War, The Advent of Cardis, an isometric hack-and-slash RPG based on the anime, promising monster bashing, magic, and dungeons, though the reviewer notes the animation isn't the absolute best they've seen. Finally, Cow the Kangaroo hops onto the page. This is pitched as a rather blatant tribute to Crash Bandicoots, a colourful 3D platformer where you punch enemies and leap across hazards. It looks like a solid, if unoriginal, platforming romp. This page continues the DC preview section, kicking off with Kiss Psycho Circus, The Nightmare Child. Yes, you read that right, the rockers Kiss have a first-person shooter where you apparently fight dinosaurs and other grotesque beasties inspired by a comic book. It looks like a solid shooter, though the reviewer notes the preview felt a bit lacking in interactive elements compared to some PC counterparts. Jawarintu. Next up is the next Tetris Online Edition. It's Tetris, with online multiplayer. What's not to love? It includes both the classic version and the next variant, and while classic isn't online, the new one is. The gameplay is still as addictive as ever, and online play makes it a cracking addition to the puzzle genre on DC, even if there were some network jitters in the preview. Further down, 4x4 Evolution hits the muddy tracks. This off-road racer boasts online play for up to 4 players, and promises plenty of dirt-churning action across various terrains. The trucks felt a tad slow in the preview code, but the online feature is certainly its main selling point. Finally, we have Army Men, Sarge's Heroes. Those little green plastic chaps are back in a third-person shooter with campaigns across different environments. The preview code apparently suffered from some rather bland textures, draw distance issues with perpetual fog, and fiddly targeting, but the prospect of 4-player deathmatch offers some hope. We warmongers indeed. This page dives into the DC Express news section, starting with an index highlighting upcoming features like Project Justice, Surf Rocket Riders, Star Wars Demolition, a Quake 2i interview, 102 Dalmatians, and the latest on arcade and international news. The main feature celebrates the return of Sega legends, focusing on Daytona USA 2001 and Sonic Adventure 2. We get insights on Daytona from Famitsu DC's editor and the developer, highlighting its mix of arcade and Saturn tracks, new courses, and online promise. Sonic Adventure 2 is also detailed, with Yuji Naka overseeing development, showcasing varied levels including jungle and city, new and returning characters, and the potential for multiplayer action sounds like a cracking prospect. Off to the side, there's a too hot to handle list teasing upcoming games for November/December, each with a flame rating indicating how excited you should be. Finally, things get a bit devilish with Highway to Hellgate. This looks like a frantic plot-driven shooter, where you ride a hellbike through fiery landscapes, Battling demonic beasts. It promises fast action and includes a 4-player mode. Could be a hell of a good time. This page kicks off with more DC Express news, starting with Daily Radar covering the stir caused by the Jet Set Radio Graffiti contest in San Francisco and Sega sponsoring Limp Bizkit's tour. We also hear about updates to the website for the upcoming Stupid Invaders game. Next up, we get the lowdown on Capcom's Project Justice, the follow-up to Rival Schools. It's shaping up to be a tag team, beat 'em up with a load of characters, different battle modes like Team Up and Party Up, and even a character editor. Sounds like proper arcade fighting action is heading our way, with fully interactive backgrounds, like in Power Stone. Shifting gears, there's a look at Surf Rocket Riders, Sega's take on jet ski racing. Clearly taking a few cues from Nintendo's Wave Race, it promises plenty of courses and tricks, though sadly no online play from the get-go. There's also an update on the delayed Dreamkey 2 software, promising features like easier registration, mouse support and messaging, but still locked away in Sega's vaults for reasons unknown. A bit frustrating, that is. Finally, there are a couple of adverts. A competition to win a year's membership to a game rental service called Lone Gamer, and the DC UK game line for tips and cheats on your favorite games. This page is packed with Dreamcast goodness. First up, DNZ Express reports Sega Europe is absolutely nailing it with Dreamcast sales, thanks to hits like Virtua Tennis and Crazy Taxi. Then we dive into Star Wars Demolition, described as a car combat game in the vein of Twisted Metal, but with Star Wars vehicles like ATSTS and pod racers duking it out. Seems a slightly weird use of the license, but the arena combat could be a laugh, despite Jar Jar's potential appearance. Next we look at The Grid, a manic arcade conversion based on a TV show concept where contestants battle to the death. It's a blend of beat-em-up and shooter with over-the-top weapons in bright, grid-like arenas. Looks proper bonkers, in a good way. Finally, the producer of Quake 2 iArena chats about the Dreamcast version. This is strictly a multiplayer affair, focusing entirely on online deathmatches and clan support. They're even hoping to let Dreamcast players frag PC players online, which would be massive. We also get a quick peek at the top 10 Dreamcast charts and a rather amusing menu of dishes named after games. This page has a preview for 102 Dalmatians, Puppies to the Rescue, a 3D adventure on Dreamcast aimed at younger players. You guide puppies Domino or Oddball to save their siblings from Cruella de Vil, exploring locations like Big Ben and Piccadilly Circus. It seems like a cheerful puzzle adventure with minigames thrown in. The Dave 2000 column is having a proper go at the gaming industry, arguing that Dreamcast is selling well not because it's suddenly fashionable, but because it's a decent console with solid games. He suggests the hype around other consoles is blinding people to the fact DC is just good value and can't be ignored. There's also a spot for Army Men, Sarge's heroes coming to Dreamcast. It's a job for Sarge to rescue commandos from the Tan Army, with plenty of weapons, and a multiplayer mode for mates. This page reports on D-Cook's trip to the Preview 2001 arcade show, giving us a peek at the coin-ops coming our way. The main feature, 2001, an arcade odyssey, covers several new titles. There's Confidential Mission, a light gun shooter that feels like Virtua Cop with spies, and NASCAR Arcade, a realistic racer promising F355 style handling, developed with EA Sports. Sports Jam is a multi-sport cabinet, letting you dabble in everything from baseball to ice hockey, proving to be quite the versatile beast. Sega Rosso's Cosmic Smash revives the simple joy of Breakout with a futuristic neon look, and Sega Strike Fighter brings flight combat to the arcades. Elsewhere, Namco shows off Ninja Assault, a light gun game on their System 246 board, and we get some intriguing insights from the Japanese arcade scene, including how many people play on a date. Very romantic indeed. The next page takes us on a tour of upcoming Japanese titles, as sniffed out by our intrepid newshounds. We get the lowdown on Charge and Blast, a shoot-'em-up where wielding massive bazookas seems to be the core gameplay loop. Sounds like a right laugh. Then there's the ambitious Dream Studio, a tool that lets you craft your own 3D RPGs from scratch, offering a huge database of assets to play with. Sakura Taisen 3, a giant of the Japanese RPG/sim genre, makes the jump to full 3D and introduces a unique dialogue system. And for those who prefer their adventures in 2D, the Rhapsody of Zephyr, a Korean RPG port, offers a classic look with some modern graphical touches. The page also briefly touches on the weird and wonderful world of Japanese dating games, highlighting titles like Tantei Shinshi Dash and Lack of Love. Never a dull moment. This page kicks off the 12 Games of Christmas, presented by a rather enthusiastic-looking fellow in a tutu and fairy wings, known as Tinkerbeast. The feature looks back at the year 2000 and highlights some top-tier Dreamcast titles. Kicking off the list are 3 cracking games. Number 12 is Choo Choo Rocket, the fiendishly addictive online puzzle game where you desperately herd mice away from hungry cats. Sounds simple, but it's a right laugh. Next up at number 11 is Samba de Amigo, the ultimate party starter requiring you to shake those maracas to the beat. Rounding out this page at number 10 is the visually spectacular fighting game, Dead or Alive 2, lauded for its deep combat system and impressive multi-level arenas, proving there's much more to it than just, character models. This page dives into the close but no cigar feature, highlighting excellent games that narrowly missed the top spots. Number 9 is Ferrari 355 Challenge, a notoriously difficult but realistic driving sim, where you actually have to drive the beast. As 8 is Quake 2, Arena, pure, unadulterated fragging action stripped of story, just kill everyone else. Half-Life nabs the 7th spot, a must-own game that truly immerses you in its world, full of tense encounters and heart-stopping shocks. Virtua Tennis comes in at 6, hailed as the best tennis game ever, incredibly realistic and ridiculously fun, especially in multiplayer. Number 5 is Crazy Taxi, a chow-tail-tick, adrenaline-fueled ride picking up fares and causing mayhem. Finally, at 4 is Jet Set Radio, a unique mix of graffiti vandalism and inline skating with groundbreaking visuals, a true blast of coolness. Also featured are smaller nods to other great titles like Tony Hawk's Skateboarding, Silent Scope, and Space Channel 5 among others. This page finishes the DC feature rundown, revealing the creme de la creme of Dreamcast gaming. Claiming the number 3 spot is Resident Evil Code Veronica, the long-awaited survival horror evolution with impressive 3D environments. Metropolis Street Racer speeds into number 2, praised for its stunningly realistic cities and challenging racing thrills, despite a minor niggle about the menus. And finally, topping the list at number 1 is Shenmue, hailed as the most expensive and ambitious game ever, an epic interactive movie packed with staggering detail that truly immerses you. The page also highlights Christmas turkeys, helpfully listing the year's stinkiest gaming offal best left untouched, and some peripheral must-buys, showcasing essential accessories every Dreamcast owner should probably cough up for. This page is a sales advert for Gameplay.com, offering Dreamcast consoles, accessories, and a huge list of games including Shenmue, fresh off its number 1 spot. This page unveils the DC UK review section, boldly stating that video gaming has changed, and so has the publication's authority on the matter. Featured heavily are reviews for major titles like the groundbreaking Shenmue, which earns a coveted DC UK Essential badge, alongside Tomb Raider Chronicles and the fast-paced Quake 2 Arena, also receiving the top honor. Ready 2 Rumble Boxing, Round 2 is highlighted with a DC UK Recommends tag. The page introduces the review panel, a collection of esteemed gentlemen whose current gaming obsessions range from scrutinizing the latest Dreamcast releases to inexplicably diving into ancient Neo Geo titles. One poor soul seems to have been utterly consumed by Shenmue, bless him. The scoring system is laid out clearly, based out of 10, with a 5 being firmly average no participation trophies here. It's billed as the most trustworthy source for Dreamcast reviews you'll find anywhere. This page dives straight into the highly anticipated review of Shenmue, proudly declaring it a DC UK Essential. The page features a huge image of the game's protagonist, Ryo Hazuki, looking rather intense. A pull quote hails it as, "The most convincing video game version of the real world yet seen has been squeezed inside a Dreamcast." The review describes the game as Sega's most expensive and ambitious project, the brainchild of Yu Suzuki, detailing the story of Ryo seeking revenge for his father's murder. It touches on the game's unique blend of investigation, daily routines, and combat, mentioning the free system, full reactive eyes entertainment, and quick time events, showcased with multiple screenshots of Ryo running through streets, fighting and leaping over obstacles. Characters like the irritating weirdo Chai and the love interest Nozomi are mentioned, painting a picture of the detailed virtual world. It's clear the reviewer is deeply impressed by the game's realism and scope. This page continues the deep dive into Shenmue, highlighting the recreational activities available within its incredibly detailed world. The Game U Arcade section reveals you can duck into the local arcade to play faithful versions of Sega's classic coin-ops like Hang On, a pixel-perfect biking racer that's lost none of its frantic charm, and Space Harrier, the legendary arcade shooter. You can even put some tunes on the jukebox, though sadly, no boogieing allowed. There are also unique Shenmue minigames, like darts with slightly different rules, and Excite QTE2 and QTE Title, which are based around the game's quick-time event system, testing your reflexes with boxing or random button prompts. Beyond the arcade fun, the review elaborates on Shenmue's core gameplay, detailing how quick-time events punctuate the adventure, seamlessly blending into sequences like chases. The fighting mechanics are praised for being realistic and surprisingly deep, built around Ryo's inherited martial arts skills, putting most dedicated fighting games to shame. The sheer level of immersion is highlighted, noting how interacting with vending machines, using bus stops, and making phone calls are all part of the experience, making simply existing in Shenmue's world is rewarding. The passage of time, dynamic weather, including glorious sunlight, showers, and even snowfalls, and detailed NPC routines further cement the feeling of a living world. It seems the reviewers are absolutely chuffed with the level of detail and engaging activities packed into this game. This page continues the Shenmue deep dive, focusing on the evolution of combat from simple quick-time events to massive brawls against hordes of enemies, including a particularly memorable scrap against 70 thugs. Screenshots showcase pivotal moments like visiting Nozomi, a high-octane motorbike chase sequence, the mysterious mirror central to the plot, a tense stealth section, and even racing forklift trucks down at the docks. The review praises the game's stunning graphics, calling them a new benchmark, with breathtaking environments and realistic character details. The sound design is also highlighted, with a cinematic score and faultless effects, though the English voice acting is humorously noted as being somewhat unique. Despite acknowledging it's not a non-stop action game, the reviewers laud Shenmue as a unique, immersive, and deeply rewarding experience, ultimately deeming it a perfect 10 out of 10 and a DC UK essential. This page gives us the lowdown on Tomb Raider Chronicles, promising action, adventure, puzzles, and platforming all wrapped up. The big question is whether it's just new clothes and moves on the same old frame. The reviewer highlights some new additions, like searching furniture for goodies and a circus-style tightrope walk, useful for reaching tricky spots. The game's structure is based on friends reminiscing about Lara's adventures, taking you to different locations and periods, from Rome to a military base in Russia and even a futuristic setting. Stealth skills are mentioned, particularly in the Russian sections, as enemies now react to sound, which is apparently borrowed from Metal Gear Solid. Despite the new locales and a few gameplay tweaks, the core loop of exploring, puzzle solving and shooting seems very familiar, perhaps leading to the observation that Chronicles looks like something from another age. It seems like one for the hardcore fans who love the classic formula. This page continues the deep dive into Tomb Raider Chronicles, picking up where we left off with the setup and early levels. It seems Lara's friends are recounting past adventures, sending us globetrotting from the training grounds and atmospheric levels in Rome to a Russian submarine base and a spooky island. The review highlights the differing gameplay styles across the episodes, noting the stealth focus in Russia and the lack of weapons on the island, which pushes puzzle solving and platforming. Handy tips are given, like searching furniture for goodies in the training area and the new tightrope walk move proving useful. A rather fetching Lara Croft collection section shows off her varied wardrobe, from camouflage winter gear, because frostbite isn't fashionable, is it, to a schoolgirl look and a shiny futuristic catsuit inspired by The Matrix. While acknowledging the aging graphics engine, the reviewer feels it's put to good use, creating decent visuals and environmental atmosphere, though perhaps not quite stacking up to Shenmue or F355. Sound design is praised for immersing the player in the different locales. Ultimately, the verdict lands at a respectable 7 out of 10, suggesting it's a competent Tomb Raider game that ticks all the boxes for fans, even if it doesn't break much new ground and might feel a bit behind the times compared to other games on the system. It sounds like a solid, if familiar, adventure for Croft aficionados. This page dives into the chaotic world of Quake 2 Arena, declaring it a back-to-basics blaster that strips away the narrative fluff of other games to focus purely on frantic deathmatch action. The review hails it as a classic, awarding it a DC UK Essential badge, suggesting it's a must-have for your Dreamcast collection. The article makes it clear this is all about the fragging, with minimal plot, just you versus everyone else in an arena constructed by aliens for their amusement. It praises the luscious graphics and the multiplayer experience, which is key to Quake 2i. They discuss the controls, noting the pad works superbly and caters to everyone from rookies to veterans. There's also a section titled Bloody Hell, highlighting the gratuitous violence, because who doesn't love blasting opponents into chunky kibbles? Screenshots showcase various weapons in action, like the lightning gun and rocket launcher, and the messy aftermath of a good gibfest. Despite the low specs compared to PC, the Dreamcast conversion is lauded as a masterstroke, proving the console can handle the mayhem beautifully. It sounds like the perfect antidote to overly serious games, just pure, unadulterated fun. This page carries on the mayhem from the previous, cementing Quake 2i Arena as the ultimate multiplayer addiction. We learn about the single-player mode, structured into tiers, with 30 levels and boss battles like Klesk, a real pain who keeps moving, and Krusk, who apparently just wanders about. The reviewer declares, quite dramatically, that we should forget Virtua Tennis for multiplayer thrills. It's just being gibbed point blank, which is a strong endorsement if ever I heard one. The DC UK verdict box seals the deal. Graphics are astonishing, sound is perfect, gameplay is classic Quake, and the multiplayer is lauded for bringing proper online action to the Dreamcast. Awarded a cracking 9 out of 10, Quake 2i Arena is hailed as genius overall, particularly when played against mates or over the net. Screenshots highlight weapons like the plasma gun and railgun, showcasing the smooth, fast action and the glorious GIBS that await. This page is all about Ready 2 Rumble Boxing, Round 2, the sequel that doubles down on the original's crazy, arcade boxing action. Forget simulation, this game is pure, silly fun, packed with an expanded roster of bizarre characters that supposedly came straight from Eminem's address book, including celebrity lookalikes like Shaquille O'Neal and Michael Jackson. The review covers the arcade and championship modes, highlighting the inclusion of a training element similar to Virtua Tennis, which helps build your skills. With 13 new fighters introduced, from robots to hippies and even G-Circa Thunder, there's no shortage of weird and wonderful opponents to face. The Rumble meter returns, letting you power up devastating special moves that send opponents flying. While it might feel like a button-mashing fest at first, the game apparently has more depth than its predecessor, especially against tougher opponents. DC UK gives it a strong recommendation, cementing its status as a daft but thoroughly entertaining fighter. This page features the DC UK review for Ready 2 Rumble Boxing, Round 2. The review delves into the gameplay, noting that despite the chaotic fun and diverse cast, there's a strategic element requiring careful timing and movement. The varied fighting locations are appreciated, moving beyond the standard ring. The DC UK verdict section breaks it down further, praising the graphics for being well drawn but perhaps lacking polish, and the sound for its amusing commentary and punchy effects. Gameplay is seen as fun but perhaps not as deep as traditional fighters, while the multiplayer, including an 8-player tournament, is a highlight. Ultimately, it's called a lovingly crafted, entertaining fighter, and scores an 8 out of 10. The right side is dominated by a large advertisement for Video Gamer Magazine, promoting a subscription deal for their heart-stoppingly honest reviews. This page features the DC UK review of Le Mans 24 Hour. Right then, let's talk about endurance racing. This game is praised as one of the Dreamcast's most accomplished driving titles, letting you live out the fantasy of the famous 24-hour race, without the need for a driving license or a massive fuel bill. The review highlights the game's impressive graphics, dynamic weather system that really changes the conditions, and the ability to have up to 20 cars on track at once, which keeps things exciting. They even attempted the full race duration, charting their deteriorating state as the hours tick, by a nice visual touch with the clock graphic. The gameplay apparently strikes a decent balance, leaning towards realism but with a touch of arcade handling to keep it accessible. While 4-player racing is a bit sluggish, the 2-player mode is solid. Overall, it sounds like a deep, visually striking racer that'll keep you coming back. This page continues the deep dive into the Le Mans 24-hour review. It seems the chaps at DC UK were rather impressed. They highlight that getting to the front really does require proper driving skills, not just brute force, which is a welcome change from some racers. Tuning your car is a go, and the AI has apparently been tweaked nicely since their preview. However, while the 2-player split screen is surprisingly good, adding more players means the frame rate takes a bit of a wobble. Visually, the game continues to impress, with stunning lighting effects and a decent range of tracks, from the familiar Dunnington Park to the absolute behemoth that is the Le Mans circuit itself. The sound and graphics get top marks in the verdict section. Overall, they've given this racer a cracking score of 9 out of 10, calling it a sparkling title that gets its hooks into you quickly with its feel-good vibe. Looks like a winner then. This page kicks off the DC UK review for Sega GT, a title that had been out in Japan for a while and was Sega's big response to Sony's Gran Turismo. The reviewer points out that if they'd reviewed it earlier in the year, it would have likely scored a 9, but the arrival of F355 and MSR since then has changed the landscape. The review notes that while the graphics aren't quite up to the standard of the latest races in some areas, like color transfer and muddy terrains, the game still manages a solid 30 frames per second. Certain aspects, like the night sections with neon buildings and specific turns, look rather lovely. Sega GT boasts an impressive number of cars, over 170 from more than 30 manufacturers, split into classes, and they handle realistically, demanding analog precision. There are 12 tracks with varied locations from city streets to mountain courses and ovals, although 12 is noted as being a bit stingy. The replays offer a cracking 19 different camera angles, which is a nice touch. Overall, it sounds like a competent racer with plenty of content, but perhaps held back slightly by graphics comparisons to newer rivals and a relatively small track list. The next page really digs into the heart of Sega Gret's appeal, the Carrozzeria mode. This lets you get your hands dirty building a car from scratch, choosing everything from the engine size and layout, to the body style and color. It sounds like a proper deep dive into car construction, though you have to unlock the ability to build bigger engines by winning races. Fair enough, eh? The review continues by detailing the game's structure, which is built around licenses and challenges, demanding solid practice to progress. It reiterates that while the Carrozzeria is incredibly detailed and emulates the Japanese racing scene well, the game still feels slightly behind newer races that have emerged. The verdict panel gives the final breakdown. Graphics are a bit hit and miss, sound is decent, and the gameplay offers depth, though some sections can be a bit slow. Multiplayer is a bog-standard head-to-head affair. Ultimately, it leaves the reviewer with mixed feelings, culminating in a score of 7 out of 10. The screenshots show off both the detailed car-building menus and various racing locales, from city streets to mountain passes and ovals, noting the bit of fogging in two-player races. This page dives into a review of UEFA Dream Soccer, noting its connection to the SWWS series, but highlighting a rather significant problem. Despite some graphical improvements and detailed stadium environments, the game suffers from poor player animation and responsiveness. The reviewer complains about tackles being late and players bunching together like a school trip at the sweet shop. However, it's not all doom and gloom. The review praises the huge menu system and variety of competitions, including the rather amusing intersex matches. There's also a neat feat-em-up arcade mode offering themed challenges. Screenshots show off goalmouth action, player confrontations, set pieces, and the general gameplay view. Despite the frustrating gameplay flaws, the ultimate verdict is that UEFA Dream Soccer is still fun, particularly with friends, earning it a respectable, if flawed, 6 out of 10. This page delivers a cracking review of Capcom vs SNK, hailed as the ultimate showdown between two legendary fighting game powerhouses. The reviewer calls it the perfect culmination of two distinct fighting styles, each with its own quirks and subtleties. The page is dominated by striking artwork of Yuri Sakazaki and Mai Shiranui, two iconic characters from the SNK universe, alongside several vibrant gameplay screenshots showcasing the intense 2D action. There's a section detailing the building blocks or ratio system, explaining how players balance stronger and weaker characters in their team. The review praises the arresting graphics and notes that the real star is the gameplay, highlighting the blend of both companies' styles and the introduction of the groove system. It delves into the mechanics, touching on how players choose their fighting style and manage power bars. The verdict is overwhelmingly positive, praising the superb graphics, bone-crunching sound effects, and calling the gameplay a Street Fighter and SNK sandwich. No mayo, no dressing. It concludes that this is archetypal stuff, awarding Capcom vs SNK a well-deserved 9 out of 10. A true masterpiece, apparently. The next page features reviews for two different games, the dinosaur survival horror Dino Crisis and the Star Wars hack-and-slash Jedi Power Battles. First up, Dino Crisis takes a stab at the popular survival horror genre, clearly drawing inspiration from Resident Evil. You play as a Special Forces gal sent to an abandoned research facility, only to find it overrun with prehistoric beasts. The reviewer notes the graphics are a bit drab, leaning heavily on a grey palette, but the atmosphere is tense. Gameplay involves exploring, solving puzzles, and shooting dinosaurs, with tranquilizer darts offering a tactical option. Despite some interesting ideas, it's deemed an unremarkable port from its PlayStation roots, and not quite in the league of Code Veronica, earning a 6 out of 10. Sharing the score spotlight is Jedi Power Battles, a Star Wars outing that lets you wield a lightsaber in a third-person hack-and-slash adventure. Think Streets of Rage but with Jedi and Separatists. You can play as characters like Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon Jinn across various Episode 1 locations. While the graphics are faithful to the source material and the score is spot on, the gameplay is described as formulaic and prone to frustrating bugs. It's okay for a few hours of Star Wars bashing, especially with a mating coupe, but ultimately feels like a bit of a cash-in, also scoring a 6 out of 10. This page features reviews for 2 diverse titles. First up is Super Runabout, a free-roaming driving game set in San Francisco. You take on missions for either a delivery firm or the police, which essentially involve collecting items and driving to a destination against a strict time limit. Despite the city environments looking fun, the skiddy handling proves frustrating, and the graphics lack the punch of contemporaries like Crazy Taxi. The reviewer found the game repetitive and ultimately quite mediocre, awarding it a rather dismal 4 out of 10. Screenshots show cars, a tram, and a moped tearing through city streets. Next, we have Chicken Run, a game based on the popular Aardman film. This title blends platforming, puzzles, and adventure, as you guide the titular chickens in their bid for freedom from the farm. The visuals are decent, but the gameplay, involving collecting items to build escape contraptions, is deemed fairly elementary. It's noted as being primarily aimed at younger players or fans of the film, offering about 10 hours of gameplay. Despite being a faithful tie-in, its appeal is limited, earning it a score of 6 out of 10. Screenshots depict scenes from the farm and concept art for escape plans. This page jumps into a couple of reviews, starting with Moho from Lost Toys and Take Two. It's billed as a brutal, futuristic sports sim where convicts compete in various events like Race, Powerball, and King of the Hill. You play as ball-bearing gladiators in geomorphic environments that react to the action. While the physics engine sounds clever and the traps and weapons add some spice, the reviewer found the graphics pleasant but ultimately a bit snooze-inducing, the sound metallic but forgettable, and the gameplay addictive yet frustrating due to variety issues. It scores a decent, if unremarkable, 6 out of 10. Following that is Pod 2 from Ubisoft, a futuristic racer that apparently needs to go back to school. Despite promising online play for up to 6, the single-player experience is heavily criticized. The graphics are slated as looking like an old PC game, the music is repetitive, and the gameplay is described as dull and frustrating, hampered by a thick fog. The reviewer pulls no punches, stating it's one of the dullest racing games seen and needs a serious rethink. It only manages a meager 4 out of 10. Ouch. This page is a comprehensive guide to available Dreamcast games, titled Declistings Reviews. It kicks off with a key categorizing games by genre, such as action/adventure, beat-em-up, driving/racing, and sports. There are showcase sections highlighting the best games in these genres, featuring screenshots of Resident Evil Code, Veronica, Sonic Adventure, and Fur Fighters for action/adventure, Soul Calibur and Dead or Alive 2 for beat-em-ups, Metropolis Street Racer and Ferrari 355 Challenge for driving, and Virtua Tennis and Tony Hawk Skateboarding for sports. The main bulk is a massive table listing numerous Dreamcast titles. For each game, it provides the publisher, a brief comment from the reviewer, player count, online support status, the issue number where a full review appeared, and a score out of 10. It covers a huge variety of games, from racing sims like Metropolis Street Racer, 10 out of 10, to quirky puzzlers like Choo Choo Rocket, 10 out of 10 online essential, and less impressive efforts like Pod 2 4/10. It's essentially a quick reference guide to help you decide what's worth your hard-earned cash and what should probably stay on the shelf. This page continues the declistings from the previous spread, laying out another large table of Dreamcast games. It provides the publisher, a short review comment, details on player count and online capability, the issue number for the full review, and the crucial score out of 10. You can quickly see what the reviewer thought of titles like Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, the Street Fighter 2 in iterations, and even the surprisingly decent Virtua Tennis. Below the listings is the DC Glossary, offering quick explanations for terms and games mentioned elsewhere, covering Silent Hill, The Immortal, and Pachinko. On the right there's an advert for TotalFootball.com, for those completely engrossed in the beautiful game. This page features reader reviews, where players share their thoughts on games they've discovered. We hear from Ben Tolfree on WWF Royal Rumble, calling it a decent wrestling game with fun modes and special moves. scoring it a solid 7/10 despite some annoyances. Phil Tolhurst reviews Sydney 2000, finding it a hollow experience despite aiming for Olympic realism, giving it a low 3/10. Lewis Rodwell delves into the bizarre import title Seaman, a virtual pet, where you talk to a fish with a human face. He admits it's slow and weird but ultimately interesting, and rates it 8/10, warning it might cause social isolation. Over on the right, the D-tip section kicks off, promising cheats and guides. It highlights Power Stone 2, mentioning tips for characters and bosses, and Dead or Alive 2, suggesting button combos to get the characters doing exactly what you want, with details found on other pages. There's also a little blurb about winning a prize for sending in your own review. This page dives deep into the DC tip section, specifically focusing on Power Stone 2. It provides a handy player's guide, detailing various characters and levels you'll encounter in the Chowtatic Arena brawler. Character breakdowns include familiar faces like Falcon, a good all-rounder, the speedy Rouge, agile Wangtang, and the sword-wielding Ryoma. We also get info on the powerhouse Gunrock, the eerie Jack, the irritatingly tricky Ayame, the surprisingly effective Julia, the powerful Galuda, the quick Pete, the cowboy robot Axel, and even the shopworker Mel. Each entry gives a brief rundown of their style and power fusion moves, some of which sound frankly ridiculous, like Gourmand turning into a dinosaur, or Pete summoning toy soldiers. Beyond the core roster, there's a look at secret characters like Pride, described as an older version of Falcon. The guide also covers levels, including the high-flying blue sky area where you freefall, and the submarine-laden iceberg area. It's a comprehensive tactical overview to help you master the mayhem. This page provides further tips and secrets for Power Stone 2, building on the character and level descriptions from the previous page. It covers several more stages you'll battle in, such as the minimalist block world, and the more dynamic Dark Castle area, with its pond and climbable platforms. There's advice on navigating the complicated space station area, keeping an eye on those pesky moving platforms, and tackling the tomb area, where the floor might just give way and send you running from a boulder, indie style. The guide also delves into the bosses you'll face, offering strategies for the walking pharaoh, suggesting you aim for the head but maybe stand underneath for a cheeky jump attack. It then moves on to Dr. Erode, described with typical British politeness as fugly, noting his fight can be frustrating but recommending wall jumps and powering up to overcome him. Finally, it lays out the game's secrets, explaining how to unlock extra characters like Pride and Mel, gain secret levels by completing the game with everyone, and earn extra options through multiple playthroughs. It even throws in a handy tip about using clean pause to clear the screen. There's also an illustration of Mel, the shop character, and a brief advert for the Daily Radar website which covers computer and video game news. This page is a comprehensive guide to Dead or Alive 2, focusing on helping players master its characters and unlock its secrets. It kicks off with character guides, delving into the strengths, weaknesses, key moves, and strategies for facing fighters like Kasumi, Hayabusa, Genfu, Helena, Tina, and the rather large chap, Bass. There's also a section on tag mode, suggesting ideal character pairings for maximum devastating effect. The secrets part spills the beans on things like adjusting the bounce, you dirty readers, unlocking 3D character models on the select screen, controlling the camera during victory poses, adding a funky freeze frame effect to replays, cleaning up the pause screen, and performing character taunts. The page is peppered with cool character art and action-packed screenshots from the game, illustrating the tips and highlighting some of the combatants and arenas. It's all about getting the most out of Tecmo's rather revealing fighting game. This page continues the essential guide to mastering Dead or Alive 2, picking up with more character breakdowns. We get the lowdown on Zack, Leon, Yan Li, Liefang, Ayan, and the dual identity fighter Aang/Hayate. For each, it details their general playstyle, key moves, presented concisely, thank goodness, not just a massive list of button presses, and strategies for taking them down. Apparently Yan Li is quite the annoying sod to fight, while Ayani's utterly unpredictable if the player knows what they're doing. Beyond the character guides, there's a rather cheeky section explaining how to unlock the Naked Kasumi original demo movie. It involves surviving for ages and typing a specific name. Blimey. Finally, it covers the costume unlock system, noting that completing story mode gets you an extra outfit for the character you used, and some fighters, like Kasumi and Liefang, have more gear than others. Plenty to aim for if you want to see everyone in all their unlockable finery. This page features the DC UK queue and a section where readers submit their gaming and hardware questions. We get tips on how to master the crazy jump in Crazy Taxi by focusing on consecutive dashes, and advice for ESPN International Track and Field's weightlifting event, suggesting a rhythmic approach over frantic button mashing. Readers also ask about game availability, like Football Management Sims, Soccer Special is in the works apparently, and the chances of Streets of Rage appearing on the Dreamcast. Unlikely as a 3D conversion, but a retro compilation is possible. There's confirmation of an adapter coming to connect MP3 players to the DC, and a warning about the text-heavy nature of Japanese dating games like Memories Off. Technical queries are handled by Science Officer Maximus, covering issues with SCART leads causing color problems and a console resetting itself, potentially a power issue or loose connection. The section wraps up with a reader worried about the Dreamcast's lifespan against the PS2, with DC UK confidently stating the DC isn't going anywhere soon and highlighting its quality games. A contact box for the magazine is also present. The DC UK Interactive Challenge invites gamers to compete in various Dreamcast games, showcasing their skills in titles like Ferrari 355 Challenge, Tony Hawk Skateboarding, and Dead or Alive 2. Participants can challenge high scores in categories like Time Attack, Survival Mode, and various scoring objectives. Prizes include Mad Catz joypads for the top 3 new monthly scores, and DC UK t-shirts for other strong entries. Proof of scores, e.g., photos, must be submitted via email or post. Bali. This page features the DM at IL section, where readers air their views and opinions on the Dreamcast and its games. Letters cover topics like celebrating the DC's first birthday, strong disagreements over reviews for games like Gauntlet Legends vs Soul Calibur, and relief that EA pulling out isn't the end of the world as there are plenty of better games coming, name-dropping titles like FIFA, Madden, NBA 2K, MSR, and Crazy Taxi. One reader voices frustrations about chauvinism experienced by female gamers at arcades and shops, while another complains about the lack of Dreamcast adverts on TV compared to the PS2. The Mail of the Month winner, Suzanne Spence, receives some top games and a VMU for her letter highlighting the challenges faced by female players in the gaming community. There are screenshots showing action from WWF Royal Rumble, a basketball game, and Metropolis Street Racer. This page explores the online capabilities of the Dreamcast, starting with a look at Sega's plans for Planet Ring, aiming to bring fairground fun online with games like Ball Bubble and Dream Dorobo. A browser snippet mentions rumors of a potential AOL partnership, offering free US local calls. The feature then delves into online management simulations, where you can play the market with virtual celebrities or sports stars, buying and selling your way to the top. The Cool Sites section points towards some interesting web destinations, including a quirky monkey fan page, a virtual DJ deck, and a site celebrating the launch of Quake 2 iArena by highlighting Quake Pro Stevie Case. Sonic Team are also embracing the net, offering free music downloads for Samba de Amigo and early beta access to Phantasy Star Online for pre-orderers. Finally, there's a guide to getting involved in online Quake 2, Eat Arena Clans. This page is packed with classified adverts for various gaming retailers, offering everything from consoles and computers, to games, accessories, and even ringtones. You've got places for buying, selling and trading modern and retro kit, plus several online shops for picking up pre-owned Dreamcast games and imports, all aiming to sort you out for Christmas. There's also a massive advert for Game Cheats covering over 3,000 titles, should you need a bit of a leg up, eh? The bottom section features a spread from SFX Magazine, diving deep into the world of science fiction TV, with behind-the-scenes looks at Stargate, SG-1, chats with Kevin Sorbo about Andromeda, and discussions on the final season of Voyager, alongside an interview with the legendary director Ridley Scott. This page presents a cracking Christmas subscription offer for DC UK magazine. You can bag yourself 6 issues for a mere £12, and as a bonus, they'll chuck in a free CD case, worth a tenner, while stocks last. The page highlights the perks of subscribing, such as keeping cash in your pocket with direct debit, guaranteed delivery right to your door every month if you're in the UK, never missing out on the latest Dreamcast goodness, and a risk-free guarantee allowing you to cancel and get a refund on unmailed issues. Proper sorted, eh? You can subscribe via phone, post using the form provided, or online, but mind the closing date of December 13th, 2000. This page gives us a sneak peek at the next issue, DC UK, number 18, landing on December 14th. It promises to be your essential guide through the festive season's potential family nightmares. Inside, you can expect reviews of Tony Hawk's 2 and Vanishing Point, alongside previews of Sonic Adventure 2 and the epic skies of Arcadia. The issue also features exclusive interviews straight from Japan, comprehensive guides for Metropolis Street Racer and Shenmue, and much more. They're even revealing which video game shops dare to badmouth the mighty Dreamcast. Plus, there's a look into the slightly bizarre world of Japanese merchandising, exemplified by those Hello Kitty goods. Looks like a packed issue, proper good reading for Christmas. This page dives into the chaotic world of magazine production with the DC UK team diary for issue 17, penned by Keith. It kicks off with the mad rush to get the issue finished, highlighting the inevitable overruns and desk clear-ups. We also get a look at the art of taking screenshots, or grabbing, explained by Lee. He shows examples from UEFA Dream Soccer and Capcom vs SNK, pointing out the difference between a rubbish, off-center shot and a proper action-packed one. Turns out getting a good grab is harder than it looks. Warrington, the diary entries chronicle the arrival, or lack thereof, of games like Dave Mirror BMX, Star Wars, Jedi Power Battles, Quake 2i, Shenmue, and Tomb Raider Chronicles, and the scramble to get them reviewed in time. It sounds like a proper last-minute dash, with folks trying to get games from Sega and working late nights. There's also a mention of the flat plan, the layout grid they use to plan each page. Looks a bit like a giant game board. On the right, there's a plug for Netscape Online, promising free internet access for chatting, email, and web browsing. This page is dominated by a rather attractive bundle deal from Gameplay for the Dreamcast classic, Metropolis Street Racer. You could snag the game along with a Thrustmaster racing wheel for £64.99, or pick them up separately for £34.99 a pop. MSR was a seriously ambitious racer, letting you tear through realistic circuits in Tokyo, London, and San Francisco in a selection of 40 cars, boasting impressive graphics and a physics engine that really put you in the driver's seat. It was a proper system seller, exclusive to the Dreamcast. On the right, there's a block of text explaining that this is a preliminary digital version of the magazine. It's part of a project dedicated to preserving classic gaming magazines by scanning and restoring them. They mention the immense amount of work involved and why they're releasing them in this state, stressing it's not the final, polished version. It's a plea to enjoy these historical archives but not to profit from them, which is a pretty decent principle, keeping history accessible.